Welcome back to the General Hospital saga, where chaos never sleeps and secrets refuse to stay buried. The 2-week arc spanning July 28 through August 8 delivers a relentless barrage of emotional eruptions, dangerous confessions, and a wedding so fractured it threatens to redefine the lives of every character caught in its shattering aftermath. Beneath the polished veneer of Port Charles lies a town riddled with vendettas, unresolved guilt, and romantic illusions slipping through trembling fingers. As the days unfold, each event reveals not just what people have done, but who they've become. And as the curtain falls on this storyline, two names echo loudest: Christina and Willow, women torn between identity, revenge, and the lies they were fed and the truths they must now face. It begins with Christina Corinthos Davis, whose spiral into darkness is no longer deniable. The guilt that's been simmering beneath her surface finally boils over when she decides to confide in her brother Michael. But what begins as a tremulous confession of misplaced vengeance becomes a tsunami of unintended consequences. Christina had never set out to harm Rick Lansing or Elizabeth Weber. In her mind, they were collateral damage, people too close to Ava Jerome, the true object of her wrath. She thought she could orchestrate a silent, surgical takedown of Ava, punishing her for sins that Christina could no longer forgive. But rage is never precise, and as Christina's scheme spun out of control, she became the very danger she claimed to despise. Michael, long the moral axis of the Corinthos family, is stunned. Not simply by the severity of what Christina nearly did, but by her detachment. She speaks not as a remorseful sister but as a woman unrepentantly convinced she was right. When Michael probes further, what could be worse than attempted murder, Christina falters. What she says next shifts the story from family drama into full-blown tragedy. It wasn't just Ava. Christina admits she used Cody Bell as a pawn in her obsession, manipulating emotions she knew were genuine. Worse still, she sabotaged any chance of happiness for her sister Molly, who had begun to feel something real for Cody. Christina, consumed by vengeance, had chosen to detonate not only her life, but the fragile beginnings of love in Molly's. The fallout is immediate. Molly lashes out at Cody, confused and hurt. She accuses him of emotional coercion, convinced now that every gesture, from a glance to a hand held in vulnerability, was premeditated manipulation. Cody, blindsided, tries to explain that he never intended harm. He only wanted connection. But in the wake of Christina's confession, truth no longer has currency. Cody finds himself exiled from both sisters, a casualty in a war he never agreed to fight. And Christina? She is left standing alone, victorious in nothing but destruction. Meanwhile, across town, another woman is about to dismantle the narrative of her own life in a spectacle worthy of any Greek tragedy. Willow Tate, once the image of quiet grace and self-sacrifice, finds herself at the altar, marrying Drew Kane. For weeks, the wedding had been billed as a symbol of recovery, Willow rising from cancer, Drew rising from prison, both seeking redemption in one another. The guests smile. The flowers bloom. The priest utters the time-honored words, "Speak now or forever hold your peace." But the objection comes not from the pews. It comes from Willow herself. She turns to Drew and asks the one question that had been gnawing at her, the one truth that could destroy everything in an instant. "Have you ever slept with my mother?" The silence that follows is worse than any scream. Drew cannot answer. His eyes drop. His mouth opens but no words emerge. And in that moment everything dies. Willow doesn't need confirmation. The betrayal is written on Drew's face. She throws her bouquet to the floor, not with sadness, but with fury, and walks out of the church, leaving a stunned congregation and a shattered man in her wake. This isn't just about Drew and Willow. It's about the lies they told themselves. Drew believed that love could be rebuilt on the ashes of previous heartbreaks. Willow believed she could erase the pain of her broken marriage to Michael by writing a new story with Drew. But you can't build a future when the past is still screaming for justice. And for Willow, the ultimate betrayal wasn't Drew's intimacy with her mother, it was that he had hidden it under the guise of love. Back at the Quartermaine mansion, Nina Reeves is coming undone. For months she has tried to control the narrative, to rebuild her public image, to cling to whatever scraps of family she could gather. But the events unfolding around her, Christina's descent, Willow's meltdown, Drew's exposure, send Nina into emotional freefall. Her grip on reality loosens with every passing day, and soon, even those closest to her begin to fear she might unravel entirely. No longer the composed socialite, Nina roams her empty penthouse in silence, haunted by the sound of doors closing, both literal and metaphorical. The true tragedy of Nina isn't her mistakes, but her inability to own them. She wanted to be a matriarch, a healer, a second chance for everyone who had been broken. But in her desperation, she enabled chaos. Her obsession with protecting Drew, with reconciling with Willow, blinded her to the fractures forming beneath her. And when Willow rejected the marriage, it was as if she rejected Nina all over again. The rejection wasn't spoken aloud, but it was felt deeply, raw and unforgiving. As the days pass, Port Charles begins to tremble from the weight of these emotional earthquakes. Michael confronts Willow, trying to understand her motives. She doesn't offer apologies. Not yet. Because somewhere deep down, she's begun to realize that she never stopped loving Michael. Drew was a refuge, a safe harbor when everything else was drowning. But love born from fear isn't love, it's survival. And now that she's faced the truth, Willow must decide what she wants to rebuild, and with whom. Christina, too, stands at a crossroad. Her confession has alienated her family. Cody won't return her calls. Molly refuses to speak to her. And for the first time, Christina begins to feel the enormity of her choices. Revenge had felt empowering in theory. But in practice, it left her hollow, surrounded by silence and scorched bridges. The question now is whether she can rebuild, or whether this was her final act in a lifelong performance of self-sabotage. Cody, though innocent of Christina's machinations, remains a tragic figure in his own right. He came to Port Charles seeking clarity and companionship, but found instead a crucible of secrets and scapegoating. His character now hangs in limbo. Ostracized by those he tried to love, and blamed for crimes he didn't commit. Whether he can reclaim any sense of dignity remains uncertain, especially as new players begin circling the drama, sensing weakness and opportunity in the fractured alliances. As the arc closes, the fabric of Port Charles is forever changed. Weddings don't simply fail, they explode, taking truth and illusion with them. Confessions don't offer closure, they expose wounds that were never meant to heal cleanly. And love, in all its complexity, continues to be the most dangerous game of all. With Nina unraveling, Christina estranged, Willow redefining her path, and Cody discarded like a pawn, each character must now choose whether to confront the truth or continue hiding behind masks that no longer fit. The next chapter begins not with celebration, but with reckoning. And in Port Charles, reckoning always comes with a cost.